In this skills training program, we'll be presenting a handstand. Over the proposed duration of 4 weeks, we'll be implementing various exercises and routines in order to improve from our pre-testing markers. We hope you enjoy the video. We'd like to begin by breaking down our handstand into its essential components. Let's look at our primary muscles. A handstand involves the activation and coordination of large muscle groups in order to achieve the stable frame we see to the left. Once in a handstand hold, the ability for strong isometric contraction along the body determines the stability of the hold. We have defined a handstand as a discrete skill, a skill that has an obvious beginning and end. The handstand skills we are looking at today show a clear beginning, the lunge and kick up, and an end, either landing with control or losing balance. A handstand is classified as a closed skill due to the performer initiating the action.
The learner will be conducting a pre- and post-test which will allow us to gauge how much she has learned. Weekly tests will also be implemented to allow us to understand how much she has learned over the course of the training program. Timing and posture tests, which are quantitative and qualitative measures, will be used to allow us to successfully analyze how much she has retained and how much she is progressing. After a week of not doing any training, a retention test will then be performed to understand how much the learner has successfully retained.
Hi, welcome to our handstand tutorial. For the first week, we'll be focusing on warm-ups and mobility exercises, as Brenda has not done a handstand at all before, so we're going to be making sure that her body becomes comfortable with the idea of stretching her shoulders.
So for transfer of learning, it's a previous experience that can be related to the new skill. So the learner in this instance is currently a power lifter, so her attention will be directed on being inverted and her balance, which relates back to her powerlifting through having a strong core and a strong back. The skill is a closed skill with a constant environment, and dual tasking will be implemented in the later stages of learning when she has to manage her balance and posture. Small teaching and practice cues to not overwhelm her will be implemented, and internal and external focus will be used, such as cues that can relate to learner or an object interacting with the learner.
Feedback will be given to the learner mostly during the cognitive and associative stages of learning. Regressions for the skill training each week include downward dog with single arm holds, and donkey kicks.
Hi, now we're going to be starting and introducing Brenda to her week 2 of her training phase. She's become more familiar with her shoulder movements and her flexibility. Now we're going to be working on strength and conditioning and more stability strengthening exercises. First, we're going to be starting with the downward dog because we want her to get used to putting her weight onto her hands, although we don't want the full effect of the body weight. So what I'm going to get her to do is basically fold in half. In the position, I want you to try and push your shoulders towards your belly button.
Yeah, okay. Terminal feedback was given to the learner because if feedback was given during the skill training, this would disrupt the learner's attention. Qualitative feedback was given to the learner so they could be given points to progress.
Next, we're going to be looking at isolating each individual shoulder. So I'll get you to go into the downward dog position again. We're going to be getting her to work on donkey kicks. This will get her starting to put her body weight on top of her shoulders without having the full effect of her body weight.
Progressions for the learner for their skill training each week include wall walks at 90 degrees and 180 degrees, handstand against the wall, handstand into partner's arms, and handstand by themselves.
Breaking the skills down into its separate components would result in a loss of coupling and therefore increase the difficulty of performance. Each segment in the lead up to the stance flows, and so practicing them together allows for coordination and accuracy.
For motivation and goal setting, small goals will be set each week to allow the learner to ultimately reach the final goal of doing a handstand by herself, such as keeping a weight on her shoulders, kicking up against the wall, kicking up into a partner's hands, and then ultimately doing a handstand by herself. A new progression will be introduced each week that implements advancement of a previously learnt skill. This will reduce the repetitiveness and keep the learner motivated. A unique training environment has been used, a classroom with a stable floor and a solid wall, which reduces external factors and distractions from the learner. Mental practice has been implemented, which is cognitive rehearsal of a physical skill without physical movements, which has been shown to be better than no practice at all and prepares the learner for the skill to be performed. Internal and external imaging will also be used, as this will prepare the learner to mentally get an idea of what she is about to do.
The 4-stage training model proposes an effective way to begin the handstand basics and progress through to dynamic skills that build off this foundation. Front walkover and front handsprings are a prime example. As we are training a novice, we would stay primarily in the Stage 1 category, balance and strength foundations. This allows for increasing performance capacity, allowing for errors, for adaptation, and eventually advancing to more complex skills.
Now we're going to be looking at our week 3 content. So we're going to be getting Brenda to start putting more of her body weight over onto her shoulders. So what we're going to be doing is the wall walks. So get your bum off the wall. I want you to try and put this part of your back on the wall.
Specific examples of feedback given to the learner included push off from a lunge position, keep your legs straight,
So try and get your butt.
flatten your back,
Perfect. So
push
try
your
and get
hips
the
out,
that way.
and tuck your head in.
Perfect. That's better. Yep, see?
As the learner
Do
improved,
you recognise that?
less feedback
Yeah.
was required to be given.
Yeah. Okay. Progression from the handstand against the wall is now handstanding into a partner's hands. This encourages control of the kick as opposed to relying on the wall to stop your momentum. So I'm going to demonstrate.
Since Brenda finished her 4-week training program with handstands. She hasn't done any form of handstand practice or training for the past week, so we're just going to test her now to see how much of the skill she has retained and how well she can still do it.
Here we have our pre-test and post-test qualitative and quantitative data. Here we have our program summary. Due to Brenda never having done handstand training, we began with small increments of blocked practice with low contextual interference.